Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. It's contest time again. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups is giving away another set of pickups, and this time it's a Strat set for one of you lucky listeners. To enter, record a video telling us about why you deserve the pickups and send it to questions@practicalguitarist.com. We'll review the video and confirm your entry in the drawing. Don't stress, use your cell phone or 90s era webcam if that's all you've got. Get your submissions in by April 20th, 2019 because we'll hold the drawing live in our Facebook group on April 21st. And remember, if you've already won, don't bother entering again as you are no longer eligible to win. Are you a regular listener? Why not? Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/practicalguitarist or locate us on Twitter as @practguitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com, or you can donate to us via Patreon, which is available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Well, that took a really long time to start recording, Jim.
It did.
I hit the button and it was like, I was like, wait a minute. Like, when is it going to start?
Usually it's like, hi, Jim. And I was like, waiting for my cue, and it didn't happen. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim.
We're at the mercy of our software at this point. Maybe this episode will go well. Hopefully I won't have to bleep much out. That would be nice this episode.
Yeah, let's not bleep.
Yeah, I don't have to.
I have a list if you are interested.
Yeah, let's get started. Actually, I don't know if I want to talk about what I was looking at this morning. So go ahead.
Well, I got one thing. Well, we can do that. I want to do a shout out before we start the list. And actually, it's on my list. And Robert Jackson today. Thank you, Robert, for shouting.
I spoke with him this morning, too.
Matter of fact, he's talking about you guys going to see Iron Maiden together.
Yeah. Yep. I got to find out when if my buddy got tickets for that and slap him around if he didn't.
Yeah.
So
that sounds cool.
Got that going.
Definitely something that would be fun. I'm looking at possibly going to see Joe Bonamassa. Now, I can't tell you, honestly, fan or not fan, I don't know. But I do know that I liked what I've heard.
So I have some opinions on Joe. I mean, it's not that I don't like him. I think he had much better tone when he was using the Buddhas. Yeah,
now he's using all those Fenders.
Yeah, and I think I actually liked it when he had the Silver Jubilees and the Dumbles, the Dumble clones. Like those sounded really cool. And then he made the switch to using these old Fender basement amps and stuff, and like
Fender basements and Fender deluxes and reverbs.
The twin high powers or whatever is all those now. Yeah,
all those tweed amps.
Which is fine. I mean, if he's got the money, like I don't care. I just don't think they sound like I'm not a big tweed guy. I played some Fender champs, like some 50s Fender champs and stuff, and like they don't do anything for me. The speaker's too small. I mean, So
I had a chance to buy one recently. I didn't. But anyway, it's not for everybody. I mean, not every amp is for everybody.
I don't mind the Bassman, like the especially the ones when they were doing it ahead and they were like the blackface Bassmans. But but like the tweed ones, I mean, why I don't want a 4x10 cab. Like the 1x12 deluxe, it's okay, but it's kind of a one-trick pony.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, you can see the Strat here. It's plugged in.
You're still using
I'm really liking it. So what happened was once it had a day, settle in, which I didn't really have the time to get to it before 24 hours was up anyway. I tried it in standard tuning. The intonation's fine. It's spot on and plays real well. I'm really starting to dig sounds I'm getting out of it, and yeah.
I've been looking at something.
You know what's dangerous about it, though? I told you this might happen.
What?
So the 12-inch radius.
Yeah,
I'm really digging the 12-inch radius.
I told you you'd like it more.
And
you gotta give it some time.
The CE has a 10-inch radius.
Yep.
So
yep,
very different feeling guitars.
But your Strat feels more like a Gibson.
Yep.
Because it's got that 12-inch radius. Although it doesn't have the big baseball bat of a neck.
No, but it's thicker than the CE and thinner than a 50s style Les Paul. I would put it in the...
Oh, it's way thinner than a 50 style Les Paul.
Yeah, I would
By
put
a
it in
lot.
the 60s. Yeah, the 60s style.
Yeah. Well, I don't think...
Or they call it. Or
I don't think the slim taper or whatever necks that Gibson ever did were anywhere thinner than a Fender. And somebody's probably got the measurements to prove me wrong, but they don't feel that way because of the shape. You don't have the D. Yeah,
this is a C.
Right.
I call it the modern C. It really feels good, and it's dangerous because I'm telling you, I don't, whatever. Hopefully I don't go and get another one.
Well, if you get another one, then you just switch away from PRS for a while.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, so now that you play with the 12, you can see why I'm like, I don't like the John Mayer because it's a 7.25.
7.25, and it's got the baseball bat neck. Got that 50s Strat neck. And I know you wouldn't like that.
Well, no, actually, the neck on it, I felt was very comfortable because it's not a D shape. It's more the shape than it is the size. And so the Gibsons, when I say they're like a tree trunk, it's because they're big and round. They're not convex or anything.
Right. And the D.
I like V shaped necks too.
Yeah.
But,
V shaped necks are nice.
Yeah, but they don't make a lot of them. My Jimmy Vaughn is supposed to be a soft V, and it definitely is, but it's super soft. And I played that PRS, the Vernon Reed model, and that's like a really deep V. It's quite interesting. It's unlike any neck I've ever touched. So,
what did you see today?
7 strings.
Ooh, see?
Kind of looking up at the sky. You can't see this right now. I'm kind of looking up at the sky like 7 strings.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm thinking, Fender Deluxe Roadhouse.
No. No, not me.
That's me.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I don't even know why you would do a Roadhouse, but
well, the current Roadhouses are different from the old Roadhouse. So
no. I was saying, like, if you're gonna do it, just get the Performers or like the really high end, but the $2,000 one that would replace the CE.
That's true. The Elite.
Yeah,
I would get the Elite version of this one.
Right. Or explore your other Strat options that you can get with a 12-inch radius.
That's just
a lot, right? Because there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, the whole Deluxe series I know is 12-inch. I'm not sure about the rest.
Yeah, I mean, there are Sirs, Tom Andersons. There's a lot of guitars just like that with a 12-inch radius, the humbucker single. And actually, I think the pickups will be better than what you've got there. But because you were talking about them not being very well balanced. Yeah,
so I put it up to volume. I got the amp up to bigger volume because I was just throwing it in and doing my thing. So I got it up to more volume. And once you get a little more volume on the amp, you get a little more of that.
Because you got compression going on. But so you're talking about is it so it's just volume, like they're not balanced in that way? Because I found that a lot of hum single guitars, the change in like tonal characteristics of the pickups are a huge problem. Because you go to that single coil and all of a sudden the bass just explodes, and it's not tight at all or anything like that.
Yep, no, not that. It just was a lot louder.
Okay.
Right. And for me, that's the balance of trying to get, and that's the other thing. So the first thing I was expecting was that booming bass, especially from the neck pickup, and I didn't get that.
I'll bet you Nick could make you a really good set of balanced pickups for that guitar.
I'd probably get something more inexpensive.
Hint. We need another set of pickups for.
Now we're coming up on April. We're going to Telecaster pickup.
Yeah. Is he doing tele pickups this time?
Right. I think that's what we're doing next.
I think that's what he talked about. Yeah. So at the top of the show, if you didn't hear it, we announced the rules for this contest. And Jim and I actually don't know what those are right now, so I'm not going to mention them too deeply. But we know that the contest is going to be slightly different this month, and I will be getting the extreme details to talk about it at the end of this episode, and it will be on the bumper that you already heard at the beginning of this episode, if that's enough time screwiness for you.
So if you have a Stratocaster,
yeah,
single type guitar,
even if you don't, you can get the pickups and go buy one.
Yeah.
It's an excuse, right? It's an excuse.
Exactly.
I'm providing you with a reason to own another guitar, which in my mind makes me like a saint. No, so I actually was looking at, I was trolling around the interwebs this morning looking for another 7-string. Because I know I'm going to be keeping this guitar long term, and I need something for backup if I start to use the 7-string as a performance tool, especially if I'm writing songs that are, are going to be in that low B area. So I was looking, and I came across a Music Man Sterling that I wouldn't mind having. So I thought when John Petrucci came out with the Majesty guitars that they were replacing the regular JPM line, which I actually did like the JPM line. Originally, I think that the neck radius on it was like way out of control though. And I think they've moved it back in, or at least the Sterling models are different. Because the Sterling models are supposed to be like a 15 inch radius or a 16-inch radius. So that's kind of in line with where my Kiesel's at. It's got a 14. Once you start getting flat like that, it's a lot harder to tell. I mean, you really have to go up a significant amount. Like 14 to 20, you would notice. 14 to 15, not as much.
Right.
Because it's already basically dead flat at that point. Yep. So a couple of things I got to keep in mind. I want to get something with a similar neck width, which is difficult because the Kiesel actually has a pretty narrow nut width for your typical 7-string guitar. And
it's been a little while since I had one in my hands, but my memory serves me that JPMs were pretty thin at the nut.
Yeah, they're very close. I was just gonna say they're like 9.4. I think my Kiesel is a 9.1 or 9.2. Like they're like within like a tenth of an inch or something. It's really, really small difference. And so I'm really looking at the JP2M pretty hard. The one I'm looking at is the JP70 and the Arctic, or I forget what it's called. Hang on, because I want our listeners to be able to look this up and see the color I'm looking at, because the color I think is a big part of why I'm into this. It's the Mystic Dream, which is like a prismatic, almost like a holographic color. Which is like purple and green and blue, and it fades together and it's metallic. I hate, and we've talked about this on the show before, but I hate guitars that bear someone's name. Okay, because it's just like, why are we doing this? Like, why? I'm playing guitar to be myself, not to be somebody else, and so it just kills me. But I think there were a couple of guitars, especially signature guitars, that have kind of transcended the person they were designed for, like the John Petrucci model. Obviously, all different variations of it are pretty much like beyond him. Like a lot of metal guys use those guitars. And I think it makes, so I played the 7-string before and I actually liked it. And I've played the new one too, the Majesty 7-string, and I liked it too.
Yep.
But I think I know Robert Jackson's probably listening. I think the Majesty's ugly. I just don't like the way the body's shaped. It's too much like, so, basses are supposed to be ergonomic. They design them so that the upper horn balances properly and everything because the neck is longer and all that. Like this guitar, the Majesty looks kind of like they did the same thing. The upper horn is just way too long and the lower horn is way too short, and the guitar looks off balance.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's function over form. It's not nearly as crazy looking as like the Tosin Abasi stuff, but
which that horn, I give him all the credit in the world, but I cannot stand the look of that guitar.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guitarist on earth right now that plays like Tosin Abasi, in my opinion. And I can totally understand him having to have a guitar that's just like that bizarre because of the level of technical ferocity that he has. I mean, there's nobody that's as ferocious technically as him right now. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are big John Petrucci fans because, years ago he was like the technical god. No, he doesn't hold a candle to what Tosin Abasi's been doing, for the last 10 years. So I'm looking. I'm actually looking at the Abasi models right now. If you guys haven't looked at those, they're really cool. They're cool in like an artsy sort of way. They have a really long single cut body that has 2 cutouts for resting on your leg in different places.
Yep.
So you can do classical position, you can do the standard position. And then I love the way that they do the dots. I know they're dots, but like because they did something different with them, they look better. They're not as generic, run of the mill. The only thing I don't like about the Abasi models is like all the ones I've seen are 8. I'm sure he's doing, because I know he does like build to order too. I know you can get 6s and 7s, but it's just like that's a guitar that I can totally see somebody like Tosin getting on with it. Not everybody else would. And I feel like the Majesty is firmly in that camp as well. But I know there's a lot of people that love them and talk about how good they are. So,
it's worth giving a try. I mean,
well, take a look at the color. Describe the color to our audience, Jim. That Mystic Dream JP70. You can Google it real quick.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Matter of fact, I think it's right in front of me. Mystic Dream or Mystic Green. Why is it, man? Everything else is coming up except for
So that green purple shift thing.
Yep. So yeah, that looks like a. You said it comes like or looks kind of almost purple in certain lights.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are saying like the pictures don't do it justice because it's a guitar that very much depends on the lighting conditions and stuff, and that they look much better in person than they do online. And I think I've seen this guitar already. So, but I didn't know. So like Sterling, right? I remember when OLP came out.
Yeah.
You remember OLP? All right. So
yes.
OLP had a couple of basses that were okay, but there were quality control issues at OLP, and not all of them were created equal. But my understanding is that Sterling is supposed to be like basically like Fender Mexico. It's like really good quality, not horribly expensive.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Do you think it's weird, Jim?
No, I like it. I'm fine, as you know, I'm fine playing a guitar that's got somebody else's name on it. Matter of fact, there's this brand of guitar called Fender, has this guy's name on it, right? They all say Leo Fender. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. That every single thing Fender puts out has Leo Fender's name on it.
Yeah, and he wasn't even a guitar player though.
And then Ernie Ball goes around putting his own name on the gear.
It's not the Ernie Ball thing that does it, man. It's that like 3/4 of the models they produce are
signature models. Yeah,
Ernie Ball probably more than 3/4.
Ernie Ball is probably the most when it comes to signature models, at least in the guitar world. The only thing that I really, really want to fall in love with when it comes to Ernie Ball is I love the look of a bongo bass. I played them, and the necks I love, but that body, man, I have a certain way of putting my fingers, and I've never fallen in love with the body.
All right, can we? I want to go through the models here just so we can talk about it for a second.
Yeah.
So they make the Valentine, which is the James Valentine signature.
Yep.
And then they make the Luke. And I don't think I need to go any further with whose that is.
No.
They make the Axis, which was Eddie Van Halen's
Van Halen model. Yep.
Right. Which maybe they'll get sued because I said that. They make the John Petrucci series, which is Majesties and JPMs and JPs. They make the St. Vincent.
Yep.
We have not gotten to a regular production model yet, have we, Jim?
No.
And then they make the Cutlass, right? That's their 3 single coil thing. They make the Stingray.
Yep.
And then they make the Albert Lee.
Well, the Stingray, they make a Stingray guitar too?
Yeah. The Stingray guitar.
I know they make a Stingray.
Used to make a Steve Morse model too.
Yes. Yep.
Oh no, you know what? I'm looking at Sterling right now. Let's switch it
I
up.
was going to say Music Man.
Yeah.
How many models are artist models that are Music Man?
Oh yeah, all of them.
Yeah. Well, of all the people you mentioned
Right.
already.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'll just rattle off the non artist models they do. They do the Cutlass, they do the Stingray,
Yep.
they do the Silhouette and the Axis.
Oh, they still do the Steve Morse. It's only
Yeah.
in the
Yeah, I see that.
Ernie
And
Ball.
they do something called the Armada collection.
Yep.
Or the Armada. That's an ugly looking thing. But yeah, no, so I mean like the vast majority of the Ernie, so maybe they do more production models than I realize, but you never see the production models.
You know what sucks and is good? First of all, I think the Cutlass is gorgeous. Right? I love
It's okay.
have a look at it. It's just weird. You don't see them. You really don't.
No, I think I've seen one in person. The flame maple baked neck and all that. Yeah. They're cool. The one I really like though that I've played a couple times is the Steve Morse. That guitar is legit. And the Steve Morse is really good, and I actually like the Luke as well. The James Valentine's okay. I don't say that like once you get into something like the James Valentine, I think you almost just should buy the Sterling version.
Yeah.
Because I don't think so. Like, look, we all know Music Man puts out an extremely high quality instrument, but with something so basic, there's not a lot of like crazy features on the James.
Well, all they did with the Valentine, and I'm talking about what they did with it. I haven't looked at the Sterling version. Is they've got that humbucker that has the like offset pieces.
I don't know if that's a humbucker or if it's just a humbucker size single coil.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't played one. And I know they just did a thing on like Stupid Deal where you get the Sterling models for like $400.
Now the Armada, that kind of looks like, is that something new? Is that something that?
Yeah, I mean that's probably not new, but it's probably something that's like they've been doing for a while.
Because it looks like a Saint
hasn't got any traction.
Yeah,
dude, they want $2,800 for that.
For the Armada?
For the Armada, yeah.
Oh my God! No wonder I never seen.
Well, it's a carved figured maple center cap, bound neck and body, Tone Pros bridge. Like it's legit. It's got some nice stuff on it, but I just don't. I mean, I think it's ugly. If you look at their model collection, right? So here's what I want to point out. So the John Petrucci Majesty is pretty custom. If you look at the way that they do the body, like I understand why the guitar is priced the way it is. I don't necessarily agree with the price. I think if I were John, I would probably be saying custom shop only for me. And those guitars, and that there won't be a production model because it's just going to be too pricey. It's $3,100 for the Majesty, and it's plus $300 for the Arctic Dream finish.
Yeah,
and so the reasoning is, of course, they got the weird center block construction and all that stuff, and then of course, which I don't know if that's paint or if that's actually like a different block of wood. But the crazy thing is like the way it's beveled and contoured and the horns and then drilling that if you look at the horn, the way the horn is and the way that they screw in the strap pin, like that's money right there because they're gonna crack a lot of guitars doing that, a lot of bodies.
Yeah,
that's you're paying for the bodies that you're not getting. Basically, that's the way I'm looking at it. But I mean, you get everything on that guitar. Like you get piezo pickup and all that stuff. So I mean, that's not terrible value. I get why that's expensive, but when you go back and you look at something like so I'm gonna get out of the John Petrucci. Let's go look at the Axis, right? So I can go to Fender right now and I can get an EVH with a Floyd Rose.
Yep.
For like, I think you can get them for under $2,000. I think you can get them around $1,500 for like a USA one, right? So if I was to buy an Axis from Ernie Ball, they start at $2,550.
Yep.
There's no reason for it. Other than it says Ernie Ball on it.
Yeah, they start there. If you get one of the trans colors, you're going to pay another $200, and that's just for the color.
I'm going to try to make Robert Jackson spit out his coffee as he listens to this. I just don't see how a company that makes the shittiest strings on earth is like also the company that makes some of the like highest quality instruments for artists ever. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's a little odd. I'm looking to see. Oh yeah, so the St. Vincent's is still here. Okay, good. Because I'm like, they didn't discontinue that, did they?
No.
Because that guitar is awesome. I played them, and I honestly, that is the most unique new guitar that has the vintage styling that I've ever played. And it's just it sounds great. The thing's killer. So yeah, if you haven't checked one of those out, you should do it. But I don't know that I'm going to buy the JP 770. It depends on what kind of deal I can get on it. It's going to be expensive if I get the finish I want. I thought about I could go cheap and I could get the black, the stealth black, but I can get 10% off regardless if I just trade that stupid Ibanez that I got in, which is kind of what I'm thinking. But I got to get him to take it, and I'd have to get at least $200 for it. So I'd have to get $200 for it
on top of the
10% off. It would have to be that plus $100 off. I would be cool if I could get $100 out of Guitar Center for it. But I think the better option for me is to take the $200 from that guitar. And this is a horse trading to the extreme right here. I'm gonna take the $200 for that guitar that I get off of selling it in the S Series Facebook group where I explain all the damage and everything. And what I've done to kind of get it correct, and I'll include the original parts as well as the everything I have on that guitar. I'll sort out, and put in the listing. So it'll be a parts guitar for somebody if they need it or whatever. So I'll sell it, and then I'll get if I can get $175 or $200 out of it, then I'll go buy something stupid on Reverb like a DS1, and I'll trade that into Guitar Center and get my 10% off because that'll be greater than the $50 I would get for the DS1.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They'll give me $10 or $15 for the DS1 plus 10% off. So it might be worth it to horse trade like that and see if I can get the maximum discount possible on one of the JPM 7s. And really this would be a means to an end. I don't think I'd keep the guitar forever. I think this is one of those guitars that I'll have as a backup, and then when the time behooves me, I'll get another Kiesel. Because I haven't really played many. I played other 7-strings. I just haven't played many that really did it for me.
Jumped out at you, yeah.
Yeah. So, and as I look at 7-strings, they're all super metal guitars, pointy ass Ibanez RG style. Why can't you do like a Strat style with a 7th string? What's the problem? Not everybody's doing super metal with it.
Yep.
Now I do play a lot of heavily distorted stuff with it, but I've been using it. I've been relearning all the patterns and actually doing it the cage system this time because it's just faster, so that I can cage system the 7-string, and it's really improved my ability to play. Doing that already, and I'm not a bad player anyway, and I feel like getting the 7-string is a natural extension of where I was, which is why I just hit on it, and I'm like, this is what I should have done a long time ago.
Right.
So, and actually, I could see myself if I could get S500 pickups in the 7-string, I'd get one of those Delos with 7-string S500 pickups in it.
Yep.
But they don't make anything like that, so maybe I can have fabricate me some.
Yeah, make you something
that gets in the ballpark. But I still want to do hum single regardless of what I do. I think I would really much rather have a neck single coil. If I could just do hum single, I would be thrilled. But I have a feeling that it's going to have to be a compromise, like hum single.
Yeah.
I have wasted a lot of time talking about my fantasies.
It happens.
Yes. Let's talk about something else, something musical, perhaps.
All right, so let's move along. Well, I have. All right, want to talk about? Here's my list. Relics, broke in, aesthetic.
Oh yeah, thank you, Jim. I'm so glad we're going to talk about this. So there was I could do this topic. So there was a thread in the group where somebody posted and I know who that someone. I know who that's. We're playing a joke here. Someone posted about a certain YouTube celebrity's guitar, and he was asking, what keys do you think he plays in mostly? Right. And I laughed because I looked at it and I go, that's a relic.
And
there's
you know what?
No way that's his guitar.
I made the assumption because I know that he's played a Strat for years.
Yeah, you're not going to if it's a modern Strat, it'll never look like that.
Yeah, and so I thought, okay, maybe that's something that
So I didn't look too close, but I kind of know the history of that guitar a little bit because I've watched a lot of Anderton's videos, and it is I believe it is a relic. And I was looking at it, and I'm like, well, obviously they're making it seem like he plays a lot in G and D and C and like those chords up at and then of course your open pentatonic and all that. So your E and there's a little bit of wear around A and G, but I was laughing because Jim's like, this thing looks aesthetically horrible. Like, why would people want to buy a guitar that's worn in like that? Or like
no,
it has the worn in look, right?
Right. I didn't say that. First of all, as far as a relic job goes, there's not much relic to it.
No, and actually, it's like one of the almost between a closet classic and a real relic.
Right. And what I get more of is what I see more of. It's me. Is when I look at it, it's like the only thing really relic. Now I'm sure the back of the neck is relic, which I can understand. I've said that 100 times. When it comes to Fenders, this is the first Fender neck that I was like, hey, you know what? I actually like this neck because it's nice and I can go right up and down it.
The radius has a big part to play in that too, believe it or not, because of where your hand position has to fall in order to do certain things. So,
yeah. Well, there's a smoothness to it. I had a Strat for years and years. I still have it, but
it's a gloss neck, isn't it?
It's a gloss neck.
That's why.
And
I would get out
and I have to rough it up. Yeah, I have to rough the
steel wool.
But you know what happens after you play it for a while? It does the exact opposite.
Yeah, so you have to steel wool it every once in a while to get it back. And I think if you use Tripolot, I think you can actually buff it back to a fine shine before you sell it. So
right. And so anyway, that was where I was like, maybe I should, kind of balance things out.
I think so. I'm going to give a little bit of opinion on that first. I think Fender, the urethane they use, the gloss they use on their necks is awful. I think it's the worst stuff on earth. I have not had those problems with Gibsons, and I have not seen a ton of Gibsons where somebody has sanded off the finish off the back of the neck, but I have seen a lot of Fenders that have been done that way, which I think is kind of indicative of maybe that urethane not being as great. So with regards to relics, right, you're talking about seeing the back of the neck is normal, but like the wear damage and stuff to the front of the guitar. I think there's a little bit of merit in certain things. So like when I see Kiesels, right, and I'm saying this because I've been looking at a lot of them. They have that arm bevel, right, the big arm contour thing going on. But if you'll see, some of them will actually have like it's natural wood, and then they want them to be like the thinnest finish they can possibly put on there. And it's not like a lot of people think it's about resonance, and I think that's part of it. I think maybe that's the the literature selling point. But for somebody like me, that's attractive because my arm won't stick to it. And if you're doing a lot of like moving around and changing positions, especially if you're doing a lot of what they call tracking while you pick, where you reposition your hand for each string, like you're definitely going to want to look into something that has like a smoother feel there. And I've actually known a guy that put masking tape over one of his guitars on the contour so that he would slide more freely. And other people I've seen, when you see a musician on stage with a long sleeve shirt when it's like 114 degrees out, yeah, that's why. Because they if they didn't, your arm sweats, and then what happens is it sticks to that urethane, and it can be downright painful when you actually do have to move your arm. And I've even seen like rash develop from where it's like an abrasion. So that kind of where I get. What I don't understand is like when they not drill, but like sand away a hole in the pick guard, or they like look like they threw like nails at it with a gun, an air gun. They shot nails into the guitar, some stupid like craziness. There is an aesthetic thing to it, right? So some of it's like, oh, I want to fool people into thinking I played this guitar for 30 years. But I think now it's getting to the point where like everybody knows that they're all relic, that the vast majority of guitars don't look that way. So like so it becomes this aesthetic thing. Like, oh, I like my guitar to look like it's been through a war. And it's the whole punk rock movement and people buying shitty guitars and playing them even though they were terrible.
Yep.
Because, hey, this looks good to me. Like it has a charm to it. And so that's a totally subjective thing. And what some people find aesthetically pleasing, pisses off others. And so when I see that kind of stuff going on, I'm not going to berate them, but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, if I spent $3,000 on a guitar, like I want it to look good and be playable. So I would rather have, like Kiesel does, they do the tongue oil necks and you can do the raw tone finish for the body. And that's like optimal playability right there. Cause there's nothing to get stuck on. There's nothing sticky on the guitar at all in any conditions.
Right.
Now the downside of that is those guitars are less protected. And I know people say like, oh, well, yeah, but it's even a guitar that's finished is so susceptible to water damage and stuff like that. But listen, they're not susceptible to like sweat damage. If you get a raw tone finished guitar and you play it for 10 years in sweaty bar gigs and outside, like in the summer, that guitar is going to swell and stuff. Like the actual body where your moisture is getting into the body is going to look awful. So you just got to be, you got to take the good with the bad and understand that that's what's going to happen. I think a lot of people I think you're going to find out a lot of those raw tone guitars are probably going to get refinished in the next decade. That people are just going to be like, this looks terrible. I love the guitar, but I can't live with it like this.
Yep.
Because even so like when you do nitrocellulose lacquer and then you hit it with keys on a chain for 20 minutes to get it all, broken up and looking nasty, it still remains smooth and it remains relatively protected because the dents are through the wood. And oftentimes when they do remove the finish, like it's still got, grain filler and stuff in it. So it's not horrible. I'm sure there's still grain filler in the raw tone thing, but you're not doing it to the whole guitar. So a lot less, places for moisture to get in and things like that. Now this is funny because here we are talking about relics and neither you nor I have ever owned one. And so
right.
Not
because I'm disinterested. Here's the reason I haven't bought or I wouldn't buy a relic. Just like you, if I'm going to pay several $1,000s, I want it to be a nice guitar and I want to do the wearing in. There are different people that have different categories of that. Now, I do think that if I'm going to pay that kind of money, I shouldn't have to have it worn in to have it feel comfortable. It should feel comfortable.
Well, I find it funny that a lot of these relics are just as expensive as like buying a vintage one.
Right. I mean, some of these things are $5,000-$6,000.
What about?
And you know why? Because they have to do all of the work to get the finish on. Then they have to do work to get the finish off and make it look like it actually wore off, not like it just dragged it through like most people do.
Yeah. Well, Jim and I had a conversation with somebody who's a listener to the show, and he's pretty close to the show. I'm not going to talk about who it is because some of the stuff that they have is like investment quality, and it's for the best that nobody steals stuff from them or whatnot. This person bought a LP Junior. Was it LP Junior? I think it was an LP Junior.
Yep.
And that thing looks like it's been through a war.
Yeah, but it's
man,
real.
That's authentic. Like that thing is real.
That is a 60 plus almost years old guitar. Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, how much? It was like, sign me up.
I'd have been there. I wouldn't have cared. Neck fix, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And it was a one owner guitar, Jim.
Now here's why I wouldn't have bought it. It's not because it was a 50s. It's not because I thought the look was incredible. I showed you that guitar that the guy that was at the open mic was playing.
Oh, yeah.
There is a shiny spot on that guitar. If you saw it in person,
that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
That guitar has been used every freaking day for the last 40 plus years, right? Its entire life. And as a matter of fact, it's 40 years old this year. And he's owned it. He's the only owner. I was like, Ed, if you ever want to sell that guitar, me.
You know the funny thing is, Multi-owner guitars never look that way.
No. And here's the thing, though. This is it. So I've asked a lot of people about the whole, the thing. And some of them, it's the aesthetic. They want it to look that way. I think that's hipster. That's why I said.
I think that's very much the reason why people do it.
Well, now, when it comes to the captain's guitar, this is the problem I have. I can understand the neck wear. I can understand the body wear. You want that body, like you said,
in the right places.
Yep, in all the right places. Get that feel there. Why would you have gunk on the fretboard or look of gunk on the fretboard?
Well, so that's actually where the finish wears through.
Well,
and if you're going to have that, it always wears through there. And that's why I said in your original post, I said, there's a lot of companies that do this without making the guitars look like shit.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
John, so Ibanez, right?
Yep.
Ibanez does this. The Prestige models, the necks have been worked over to death. And a lot of them you'll find are also available in flat finishes. I don't know if they are anymore. They for a while were doing a flat finish thing where you get them. And so that's a preference thing. Like I know people who bought guitars and then flattened the finish themselves because they're like, I just want it to be smooth. And you can do that with steel wool, or there's a lot of different options for doing that. Eventually, even a satin finish guitar is going to polish up a little bit, but it's going to be in no way as bad as a gloss guitar. So I bought my Kiesel satin, and I'm kind of hoping that it polishes up because then it'll look older. Even though it's a totally modern guitar. And I think there's some merit to like each guitar should be treated as an individual. And I see like the Road Worn series that Fender did, where all of the wear was exactly the same. That was insane.
And that
didn't make any sense.
It's just aesthetic. No two guitars will ever wear the same. So why is it that?
Because they would have had to do all that wear by hand if they were.
Right. And so if you're going to do a series, and that's why I get, people that spend a lot of money for custom shop wear, I got it. I don't get.
I could get a 70s Strat for $4,000.
Yeah.
Or I could buy a 70s Strat that's been torn to shit by the Fender custom
Strat. Yeah, it's actually a 2019 Strat that they've torn to shit.
Well, to be fair, like if you bought a 70s Strat, right, and it looked like that, you probably need to have work done to it to keep it maintained. And there may be some issues with it. Like your neck heel might be screwed up.
And some people don't want to deal with that. It's just like an old car. You want to deal with the problem.
Right. So I think that's what I said. I come down very in the middle on this because I at some point will probably own a relic guitar. It's probably gonna happen at some point.
Right.
But I'm not running out to do it. It would have to be like the special, perfect, like certain model. The one I really like is the one that Danish Pete has on Andertons. He's got that purple Telecaster. Relic. Yeah, and that thing looks really good, but it's a relic.
That's right. Now you know what they've done.
Oh yeah, Fender, they cloned that thing.
Fender cloned it.
Yeah, because it's gorgeous.
But now you've got a clone of all the stuff that Danish Pete's already got. Pete Honoré.
Yeah, but the clones aren't exact. Like they're clearly hand done. You can tell. Because I was watching where they unveiled those.
No, they've made a clone that's a production model. Guitar Center has it, and Anderton's had some too.
Oh, I thought Anderton's.
Yeah, it's in the $800 range. It's relatively cheap. That's not. I know what you're talking about.
Hmm? That sucks.
Yeah, just look up Relic Telecaster.
Yeah, so what he actually has is a Fender Custom Shop 52 Telecaster Heavy Relic Purple Metallic.
You got it.
It's $4,000 roughly. It's 3,600 pounds. 36.
But for the Fender Road Worn 50s Telecaster limited edition is $899. It's a copy.
Fender.
Yep, Road Worn 50s Telecaster.
50s. I just want to see it. See how exact it is.
It's not, but it's their best shot at making it look like it. And he's getting money from that, I believe. So and they had them at Anderton. Yeah, I'm looking at one right now.
No, that's the only one I saw at Anderton's was the custom shop reissue.
Yeah, no, I was watching their thing. The only reason I even knew about this,
I thought that was an
I
Anderton's
watching
exclusive, though.
their channel. No, I was watching their channel, and it was like, oh, these. And Guitar Center has some.
Well,
They blew them out. Anderton's blew them out a while back. They did one of their blowout videos.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing the purple. I see. So here's like a Road Warren 50s Telecaster purple. Doesn't look anything like Danish Pete's, though.
No, but that was the objective.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any of the same.
And you know why?
Like
It
zero.
doesn't have any of the same wear. You know why?
Well, that's my point, though. The wear is what makes it.
They couldn't afford it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So this isn't a reissue of his guitar because it doesn't have the same wear.
No.
That's the whole point of
No,
why.
they went for his color of purple.
Oh yeah, I don't care about the color. Like that's a little, and actually the color isn't even that close because his is faded. You can see the wood grain through it.
Yeah, I know. This doesn't even. This looks like a crayon.
Yeah, it's and it's the wrong color purple. It's not as metallic. Like there are various issues with this. Be that as it may. So like I get what you're saying. Like, oh well, but I see that each wear pattern is totally individual. And I think that's part of the reason why some people gravitate towards, like I'm gonna get the custom shop relic.
Yeah, of course.
I just don't understand why.
And I think that's why the Paisley one didn't do so well.
I will take apart. It is absolutely why the Paisley one didn't do so well. I will take apart a Telecaster, and I will drag it behind my car through my parking lot one time. I will go in my house. I will reassemble it. I will put it on eBay, and I will make an extra $500.
Yeah.
Like that's what kills me. Is that it's not these people aren't doing an insane amount of work to make these relics. It's I mean, it's a very lucrative trade. Now
the custom shop
bad relics out there. This is obviously a bad relic, right? That
50s Rome 50s Road Wars.
And you could definitely tell a guitar that was relicked by some dude by dragging it behind his car versus a relic that was done at the custom shop where they did it by hand with a razor blade, and then they would like force dirt in it or put coffee on it, so it would like stain. There's definitely like a different level of craftsmanship. Somebody like Nash, Nash guitars, like they know what they're doing when they relic a guitar. I can pick up a Nash Strat when I'm at CME, and I love the Nash Strats. I played several of them that I almost walked out with. And I can pick up a 60s Strat at CME, and the wear you wouldn't be able to tell them apart if the logo was covered up on the headstock. I mean, they're that close, and they sound great. Both sound, astonishingly good. Yep. But part of that has to do with the fact that like if you're going to buy an off the shelf Telecaster now, it has to have Rojas compliant parts.
That's right.
It has to have. And of course things are changed over the years, the way that they make parts and stuff. And even when you get into custom shop models, like no, they try to be really accurate with those, but they're not 100% accurate. And so if you were like, go get a Nash with Lollers in it, you might get something that isn't available internationally. And so therefore is not Rojas compliant.
Yep.
So those pickups are going to have like a more accurate wire. And I think that's one of the reasons why I liked what Nick Ponders did with this set is that, I mean, he's a stickler for making sure that things are what he wants them to be. So, when you have that kind of uncompromising like thing about anything you do, whether it's playing music, buying equipment, or whatever, you get a premium result. Now, whether it's more than necessary, that's another thing. And I think that's what we're getting at here is that these relics are more than necessary.
Yep.
So, by all means, if you want relics, buy them. If you don't, just take them out back with a chain and hit them.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you would want the fretboard wear to look like that, unless it was, because you don't feel the fretboard.
Well, so I think part of it's an age thing, Jim. And I'm not saying like you're too old to understand. I'm saying that because you're older and you live through 50 years of people playing this kind of music, so it's easier for you to access these memories of guitars that look like this and like fall apart and that get worn out that way. But for somebody who's in their 30s, I've been playing 20 years. I don't have anything that looks even close to that. And so for me, like, I know I'm never going to attain that through just playing guitar. Like I play a lot of freaking guitar, and my guitar's never going to look like that.
Right. And that is the true downside of the guitars that, if you look at the how do I say this? The guitars that we're looking at right now, that are new, will never wear like that.
No. Well,
Never.
I mean, so if you buy a relic or you buy a custom shop and it's been nitro finished, yeah, it will eventually relic like that. But even the nitro they're spraying today is
That's what I'm
not
saying.
the
It's not
same
the
as the
same
nitro in the 50s and 60s.
That's right. And
Nobody's
because it's
allowed
not
to-
the same, because it's not the same nitro, will not wear the same way.
I mean, I don't know. It just depends on the softness of it and the elasticity. And I think you have a much better chance of getting a guitar that looks similar. I don't think sameness is as important as looking similar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is not a total thing, or yeah. So,
but people are, let me put it to you this way. People are also spending $400 on sneakers because they look like they came from the 70s.
yeah, dude, I just went to the mall yesterday and there were people lined up to buy the new Jordans. And I'm like, Michael Jordan has not played basketball
Since
in
the 90s.
20 something years, you know. What in the hell? You know, and you know they're going to be $400 set of shoes or something. You're like,
you know why they're lining up?
for this?
Because those same people are going to then put them on eBay and triple the price. They're the same people that
and
buy
there are people that are insane enough to pay $1,200 for a pair of shoes.
Absolutely.
I say that I bought a $200 pair of shoes yesterday, so I can't complain too much. But
I remember
a $200 pair of shoes will last me 2 years. So
I remember the first time I bought a pair of Nike Airs when they first came out.
Yeah,
just to date myself, and they were. I mean, I was running a lot back then, and the Nike Airs were just over $100. It was the first time I ever paid more than $60 for a pair of shoes.
Yeah. Now you can't buy a pair of shoes for under $60 unless you're basically buying like sandals duct taped together at Walmart.
And I literally have to spend at least $60 on my New Balances, and that's regular old New Balances.
Yeah, just plain old and New Balance is great because you can get the same shoe for like 3 years in a row.
That's right.
Before they change the style.
Before they change the style on you. They're not changing every 4 months so that they can get them up on eBay.
Yeah. Well, we were laughing because I've been shopping at the walking company because, as you know, I'm fat and I need shoes that can that can support me. Right. I need support, everybody. Anyway, so I went in there to buy
an athlete.
I went in there to buy shoes, and I certainly can't fucking be an athlete with that. But I went in there and I bought some shoes, right? And so the shoes are like $175, and I'm sitting there going, man, I could have bought like 2 pedals for that. And like, that's the way my mind works.
That is what goes through my head when I go. I'm like, well,
how many sets of strings is that?
I could buy a guitar with this.
Yeah, dude.
I
gotta buy a dishwasher soon, and I'm like, for what I'm gonna pay for a dishwasher, I could have like a new TV or something.
Exactly. Well, you can go to Guitar Center right now and get a $2,500 Fender Jimmy Page mirror Telecaster.
No, I can't.
But I'm just saying.
I would need to actually have the money in order to make that happen. So
I would need the magic $2,500 to do it.
Well, I could probably if I thought about this, like this is as sick as my mind gets, and then we can move on to the next topic. I've totaled up the value of everything I own guitar related, and I was like, if I trade this all in, I'd have about like $10,000 to work with, something like that. And you're like, what can I do with $10,000?
What can I do? I could buy new guitars.
Okay. That's what, like, I would buy like, so what you do is I have 8 guitars, I think right now, or 7 guitars. And I would sell off all of them. And then I would have to buy 2, right?
Right.
And then I would have to buy, so I'd sell off all my amps, and then I'd have to buy, I probably wouldn't sell them in Mark V just because I would probably end up rebuying it. But I would, like, and you kind of rationalize, you're like, wait a minute. So I go from 8 to 2. Like, what am I thinking?
Okay, so hey, that's a nice segue. So one of my things, I recently in my YouTube feed, I got for some reason, a lot of videos that have said, can you just play one guitar? And we have a lot of famous people. We've talked about this before. Brian May,
sure.
David Gilmour. David Gilmour pretty much just plays Strats all night. Pretty much plays the same Strat all night, other than when he switches to pedal steel or his acoustic.
He uses Gretches too.
Well, I'm talking about live, but
Yeah, he does. I've seen video of him using it.
Well, he tends to use his Strat most of the night.
Yeah, more often than not, you'll see a Stratocaster in his hands.
Right. And for Brian May, it's the Red Special, and for you can go down the list. Most guitar players are playing one or two guitars all night long.
Yeah,
for the most part. Not everybody's Alex Lifeson, whereas he has a different guitar for every freaking song.
A lot of guys do, though. I think it would shock you.
Oh, I know. So
even Billy Gibbons, he uses one tuning.
Oh. The guy tunes well. He does have one open.
I meant one alternate tuning. Yeah, so he's got. You think he'd get through a set with 2 guitars?
And he plays. You'd think so, but he plays like 18 guitars.
Yeah,
I was watching his tech. The poor guy.
He carries like 24, but he only uses 9 of them. It's like.
If you ever get a chance to watch the rig rundowns or whatever of Billy Gibbons and see his guitar tech, he is one manic son of a bitch.
We've talked about it on this show before. Like, watch it and then think about what he's saying with regards to what Billy Gibbons is actually probably using. And you'll realize that Billy doesn't tell anybody shit about what he's doing.
That's right. That's right. He dodges questions well. So the question came up, can you use just one guitar? And this one guy who's a jazz guitar player was talking about the fact that he knew a guy that he'd been around upstate New York. And then he says, if this guy, I didn't even know he played guitar, and I knew him for years. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I see him playing locally. And I'm like, you play guitar? He goes, yeah. And he goes, what guitars do you have? He goes, this one.
Yeah.
I have this one. He had one Strat. And so now we got to have the Desert Island guitar. So your Desert Island guitar, and try to do this objectively as well as subjectively. If somebody said to you, you could only keep one guitar, what are you going to keep?
S500.
S500. Yeah.
Even though it's not a 7-string, like I could play probably 90% of what I played for the majority of my life on one of those. Yeah. And be totally happy. I think the amp would be the bigger Desert Island question for that. So, yeah, and it actually probably isn't an amp I already own.
Oh, really?
No, it's probably a Rivera because it's 2 channels and they're diametrically opposed. They're totally different, and that thing covers so much ground that it's kind of stupid that I don't have one right now.
Well, you do have the
Mark covers a lot of ground too. I just don't think it covers as much.
Right.
Because it really, I can get JCM 800 tones out of it. I can get sort of plexi tones out of it, but I can't get a lot of the in between that and Fender clean.
Right.
Like I whereas the Rivera, you can get the clean channel going so much that it'll actually distort. And it'll, distort, like it's a totally gained out Fender Basement or something.
Right. Well, so I think that for the longest time, obviously, my CE has been my Desert Island guitar.
I don't know, man. Like as I'm thinking about this more and more, I could probably do the Mark V. Yeah.
And right now I got the amp. The amp 1 is great.
That's a great Desert Island amp.
I don't have amp envy. I really don't, which is weird. I saw a Lone Star Special on sale in my area. I was like, but it's just.
I'm glad you really like that thing because, I didn't want to have to buy one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It really is great. I really do like it a lot. More and more
of my GearFest trip looks like it's going to be buying a Seymour Duncan power stage and a cabinet and just running my Helix through a cabinet. And then my Mark V will be my second amp. And
I'm probably going to do something. This is insane. I'm probably going to do something totally non-guitar. You're
going to buy an interface?
I may look at some in-ear stuff.
Yeah.
Just the drivers.
Yeah. So
they're not cheap.
If you're going to go that way, I would look at Ultimate Ears or somebody like that and see, find a laser measuring center. And if you have to go drive to get them, it would be it would be worth it because you'll have them the rest of your life.
Exactly.
I've been thinking about that actively too for a while, but for me to do it, I would have to get a wireless in-ear monitor system, which is not
I
cheap.
have.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I might buy one at GearFest. Like, that's something that I would think about. But I need an attenuator more than anything. That's gonna happen. Like, whether it's GearFest or not. This JP thing is probably not gonna happen right now. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, just because there are other things that need to come first. And I gotta get a backup amp that's actually worth a damn. So for me to get a power amp for the Helix. Once I get the power amp, I'll probably just sell my Katana head, and I'll be down to like a smaller amount of rig stuff. And of course, at the end of this year, I'm probably going to sell off the Red Legacy. Because I just don't have room for as many guitars as I have. Like, that's going to sound really bad. How many guitars is too many? Well, I have too many right now. And then maybe next year I'll buy a Kiesel 7-string something, or I will find a 7-string that is more traditional that I can get from Good Kind of Music. So,
right. Yep.
Anyway.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I'm
just trying to transition into less guitars, really. That's what's happening here is like I'm at this turning point where it's like I only really play a couple of them right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to slim down even further. So this Desert Island thing like directly relates to the fact that I really don't use that many, and I never really have. It was always nice. So the premise of how we started the show is like I was the studio rat, and you were the live guy, and going back to that, like that's part of the reason why I have so many different guitars is because like when you have to multi-track something, you don't want it to sound exactly the same.
Exactly.
So, oftentimes you don't want it to sound exactly the same. There are times where you do. So I'm like kind of the frame of mind that the reason why I've got 5 different strats, is because one sounds just a bit different, for different things. And, but I don't need that. I really don't. Like at the end of the day, most of my guitar tracks are like done with 2 guitars. So I could probably get down with a pair, to be honest with you. So
a pair of what?
I would probably do an S500 and I would probably keep my Kiesel. Yeah. If I had to like slim down everything else, even the guitars I'm sentimental about, those would be the 2 that stay.
Yeah. USA. As much as I hate to admit it, I'd probably have a Telecaster somewhere in the mix.
Well, I could see a Telecaster being a Desert Island guitar for a lot of people too.
Well, I'd have a Strat and a Tele.
So if you want to be rugged on that Desert Island, like the Telecaster is a good rugged guitar.
Exactly.
I think anything other than a Telecaster is probably not going to be that rugged. And I've heard people say that about the Strat too, but let me tell you, there's too many moving parts on that thing for it to be what I would consider a rugged guitar. Unless you have a hardtail, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. What
else you got on your list? You said you had like 9 topics, man.
I do. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I gotta find that one. The just one guitar. All right. So the next thing I had was where do you put your volume pedal in your pedal chain? So I'm gonna say I'm gonna give some props to the guys at the pedal show, because usually you know how I am about that pedal show. I go waffling back and forth with those guys because one of them comes across as a real snob, and I know he doesn't mean to, but he does.
They are snobs. No, let's not make bones about it. I watched a video of them recently where they're like, I don't see how I could do anything but play a tape delay now.
Oh,
shut up. Shut up.
That's definitely, if that didn't come out of
there are professional players out there who will not use a tape delay because they know better. Like, shut up.
Mick is more condescending than.
Yeah, because the other guy's trying to sell stuff.
Right. He's a lot better at it. Mick is not good at it. He's very condescending. He's your typical grade A
They're trying to be cork sniffers on that show, like really bad.
Well,
And I being a cork sniffer just because like you've experienced things and you've made decisions about what you're doing is one thing, but being a cork sniffer because you're trying to, that's weird.
well, yeah. So I was watching it, and they did a really good episode about where to put the volume pedal.
Right.
And here's the thing: a lot of people put their volume pedal first, and the reason they do that is because they use it as a way to control the volume of the guitar. And here's the problem with it. You know this, and I'm only giving this for our listeners, is when you put the volume pedal in front of the in the first thing in your chain, put it in front of everything. What you've done is you've replaced the volume pot of your guitar, and you've put it at the end of an X number of feet board, whatever the feet between you and the pedal.
They increase capacitance.
So what you've done is increase capacitance at that point. So your roll off is not going to be that nice roll off that you would get if you did it at the guitar. So if you're using it because you want to control your overall volume, one of the best places to put it is in the there's two places, but they have different ways of managing the volume. One, you could put it in the at the very end of your effects loop chain. And that way, it is truly a master volume. It's going to go up and down. It'll act like that.
You don't want a standard volume pedal to do that, though.
And that's because
impedance.
Right.
So you're going to want to have one of the line level volume pedals. You're going to do that. That's my understanding, because usually it's hotter coming out of the amp than it would be, coming out of your guitar. So the whole thing.
Where there's another place you can put it
is at the end of your board.
That's right. Just before the amp.
Problem. Okay. So here let's I want to look at this from the solution side, right? So what does the volume pedal solve for? Not having control over the volume of your guitar, right? And yes, he's right. Running a cable into it is going to add capacitance unless you're buffered. And there are situations where people run buffers on the front of their board and a volume pedal after. It's not going to be the same as controlling it on your guitar, but it's not supposed to be, right? And that's the argument I would make. I have used, again, I think that the capacitance thing, I don't know if they demonstrated it on the show, but I have a feeling that that's like a lot less of an issue than they're making it out to be. Because most pedals they're not super capacitance sensitive. Right. So like if I run into a tube screamer, it doesn't give a shit. Like I could have, a signal that's all over the place. If I run into a fuzz face, that might be an issue because that's a more vintage approach to pedal building. And so a lot of your pedals from the late 60s, early 70s would have those kinds of issues. But even something as simple as like a phase 90, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You're really not.
Nope.
So I have a volume pedal. I actually have a VP Junior, and it's sitting up in my cabinet above my head right now. I've used it 8 or 9 times for my SG, and that's because you cannot control the volume on an SG while you are playing. And that is, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible place to put your volume knob. So, because so many players rely on it. And Jim, you just ditched an SG, and you cited that as part of the reason. I mean, so obviously you're aware of it. But here's the other thing: if you put it at the end of your pedal board, if you're relying on your amp for drive, that's not really going to do anything.
Right. Exactly.
It's going to act like your volume knob on your guitar close to your pedal board.
Right. Which is a completely different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like, I think a lot of the rise of volume knobs has been for swells in praise and worship music specifically.
That's right.
Not that it doesn't get used in other music, but like for praise and worship music, that's a big deal. And I think the other thing is, it is because of the rise of pedal boards. Like, how many people do you know, Jim, or have you run into where their pedal board was worth more than their guitar and their amp?
I know, right?
And that's what I want to point out. So these people are like, No, I want my pedal board to do everything. I don't want the guitar to even like. I have to worry about what guitar I'm plugging into it.
Yep.
And so if you're doing the Rode thing, see, Moore, right? They have a pedal right now that is an IR loader. Like, we're getting to the point that we are just putting a speaker cab right at the end of our pedal board, which in my mind is absolutely insane because you're not getting anything like the sound you would get straight out of an amp, right, into a cabinet, mic'd up. Like, that's not what that sound is. Okay. There's no amplifier in your equation. You're not adding compression unless your pedal is adding compression. Your pedal is not emulating anything like a speaker cable running into the cabinet. Like, there's a bunch of problems I have with this whole equation. Unless you're using an amp in the box at the end of your chain and your amp in the box does a speaker modeling, I just don't feel like that's a good solution. I can't. I'm not gonna stick a cabinet model out in front of a blues driver, even though some people have said the blues drivers are pretty rudimentary amp in a box. Because the blues driver, when I plug it direct into my DAW, doesn't sound anything like an amp plugged directly into my DAW. Like it doesn't. So I don't know. For what it's worth, I think that those people are kind of barking up the wrong tree. But I do think there's a logical reason for that. People are wanting a helix, right? They want an analog helix is what they want. Yeah. And so, or an analog, modeler thing. And okay, I understand it. And that's fine by you. I'm sure that I know Tech 21 makes some great analog modeling products. I just think that that's almost like, well, I would just rather have a completely modular pedal board and spend all my money on that and putting that together than I would like actually thinking about the other things that matter, like my guitar and my amplifier and, playing actual music that allows me to be a little bit loud. We're becoming very polite. Guitar players are very polite, right? Remember when the meme was like, how many stacks do you need? With a bunch of cabinets in some dude's basement. Now it's like, can you turn down? I can't hear to order my beer. Well, what are we doing? What is happening to rock and roll? And I know, obviously not everybody plays rock and roll, but I mean, when you go into a club and there's a rock band playing and they're like turning down, you're going, what?
I'm with you on that. It's just, it gets ridiculous.
Yeah. So, bear that in mind. If you're one of these guys that's doing like the full on pedal board thing, like I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, for me, the way I think about things and the way that I would use it, it's not going to accomplish what I need at all. Even with that diesel VH4 that somebody bought in the group, they bought the diesel VH4 pedal.
Oh yeah,
which I think sounds ridiculously good.
Yeah.
I need more than that. I need like a power amp of some sort.
Yep.
To actually like push it. That's the other thing is like you're getting even if you can make the argument, okay, so it's already emulating the power tubes inside the box, right? Even if you can make that argument, the argument I have against that is that you're not amplifying it loud enough to actually hear what the frequencies do at higher volumes. Because we obviously know that there's the Fletcher-Munson curve or the equal loudness curves that allow our ear to emphasize certain frequencies at certain volumes. And so I've been using that as a way to like compensate for my sounds in the Helix, so that I can program at lower volumes. And then literally all I do is turn that EQ block off when I'm playing live and turn it up and it'll sound fine. Yep. You can do that kind of stuff. You can do that with any rig, but you have to have the forethought to do it. And if you're not doing that, if you're running direct to the PA, your guitar is so quiet that you're never going to hear what it's supposed to sound like anyway. And so I think what's happening, it's not so much that people are doing something inadequate. Jim, I think the sound of guitar is changing. Like what we anticipated as the norm was that loud rock and roll pants blowing in the wind thing is not going to be the thing for very long. That was 50 years, and now the next 150 years of electric guitar are going to be a whole nother thing. And actually, I could see a day when we're not plugging 1/4-inch cables anymore. That we're using Ethernet cables or something crazy like that. because
Yeah.
we're going to be digital before long. The guitar will be putting digital output directly from the guitar, and all of your modeling stuff will be right into the guitar.
Yeah, I can see it. The Variax is there, but
Yeah, well, that's like the rudimentary form, but in another 15 years, think about this, Jim. The Roland synth guitar, the one that looks like a gun, it has a big long stabilizer arm on it. You know the one I'm talking about, the GR 100 or whatever it is.
Those. Yep.
All right, so the GR 300, right? That was that came out in like 84, 85.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 97, 98 is when the Variax came out.
Yeah.
So 12 years later, we had the Variax. And you know what's crazy is we've had other products like the Variax since then, like the Roland GR system, not the MIDI thing, but the pickup modeling thing that they did. And
right.
I really think that once that hardware gets down to a cheap enough level and gets fast enough, we're going to be pushing buttons on the guitar to get distortion and stuff.
It's all been about tracking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's about tracking, and it's about the speed with which we can track, because even now you have to process the signal and you have to have a certain length of signal in order to determine what note it is.
Yeah.
But we're getting there, and it's going to be really quick and really wild.
Oh yeah. So I can say this: my volume pedal resides at the front of my paint.
Do you use it?
The only reason that I do that, I wouldn't use it at all. I do it for two reasons. Number one, I can use it as a quick mute. But the other reason is, if I'm going to do volume swells in the way I do it, if I've got a lot of picking to do, I don't want to do it with the volume knob. Now, if it's less picking, I actually use the volume knob. I don't use the pedal. But that's just different strokes.
I don't use one at all.
Yeah, and I know there's people that don't use them at all.
Well, and there's a lot of people that don't really even use their volume knob, which is that's kind of surprising to me, because I do use the volume knob quite a bit. Right. But there are people that do all of their varying dynamics with the pick.
Yeah,
like that is startling and astounding to me.
Yeah, and that's I think that's not to brag, because I'm certainly not a great guitar player, but for me it goes all those ways. I use my pick, or I use my fingers, or I use the volume knob, or I use the volume pedal. I mean, it goes all over.
Yeah.
So the string debate continues in the group. I just want to say that GHS sucks, and we want to say, hey, Robert,
you don't like GHS? You don't like GHS?
No, it's not GHS. I'm sorry. Ernie balls suck.
Yeah, they do suck.
But we already made a dig at Ernie Ball earlier, making such crappy strings.
I'm not saying that Ernie Ball. Look, I do want to clarify this a little bit.
Yeah,
look, not everything Ernie Ball puts out is garbage.
No,
even string wise.
Yeah,
but the slinkies that everyone loves.
Yeah.
What in the hell, man?
I have a set of. You can't see them; they're off camera over my.
Yeah, you got some slinkies over there. I got some slinkies over here.
Slinkies. I got some hybrid slinkies. They were on sale, so I bought a 3-pack. They're 946 hybrids. All right, so I wanted to go over one more thing: breaking out of ruts. We talked about changing tuning as a way to break out of ruts.
Just get a 7-string, you'll be fine.
Yeah, people were talking about that, and I think I think everybody, the one thing that you want to do, the first thing you want to do when you get a new toy, right, is play with it. So when it comes to breaking out of a rut for playing guitar, certainly new gear is one way to break out of a rut, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, this guitar, I've been playing it a lot, and that certainly pulls you into where, let me try this with it, those types of things.
The things that I have experienced recently, because I get ruts a lot, right? Mm-hmm. What happens is, like, okay, so I play a lot of first position pentatonic, like where the root's on the low E, right?
Right.
In the first finger. And then So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, so I'm going to force myself to play this solo in the second position. And just something that simple is enough. Or saying I'm only going to use 3 fingers. Like those little stupid details like that are great ways to get out of ruts because you're putting a limitation on yourself and it forces you to be creative and it takes away the tricks you commonly use to get out of problems. And that's why you get into a rut, right? Like you can't think creatively about how to get into either. I guess it's remove limits or add them. And I think adding them is far cheaper than removing limits by going to buy new gear. So I would recommend before anybody goes out and runs out and buys a guitar, or amp, or changes their strings to some new brand, or starts using their pedals in a different way, which that could be enlightening too. All of those things are great alternatives if you can do it. You can just like change your, I don't want to say change your tuning because we talked about that last week, but you just change your technique in a certain way.
Right.
Limit yourself. I'm not going to use the low E for this riff. I'm not, or I'm going to transpose this and I'm going to do everything as an inversion. Like those are simple things you can do that are totally all in your head. And if you can play, if you know enough to dream it, you know enough to change your habit, right? And I know a lot of people get stuck on the idea like I have to identify what it is that is the rut. Like I have to know what I'm doing that I'm doing over and over and over. And I would like to say that no, you don't. You really don't. All you have to do is say, I'm going to place a limitation that takes away the common, like the stuff that feels comfortable to me. And that's what it is. It's about comfort zones. If you're not getting out of your comfort zone, you're not learning as a guitar player. You're not getting into a new space, right? So we should be always, as musicians, guitar players, singers, whatever we're doing, be pushing the boundaries of what's possible for us to do. Not the industry or the people, but us. So if you do that, if every day you get out of your comfort zone for 5 or 10 minutes, you will improve as a guitar player. I can guarantee it.
Yep.
You can get to the bank. And if you don't, I'll club this baby seal.
That's right. Club this baby seal. I'll shoot this dog in the head. Remember that magazine? So that would go over well these days.
Clubbing a baby seal. Let's see how fast I get blood thrown on me.
That's one of the things. So one of the pop songs that we do, there's a whistled part in the song, and I don't want to name the tune, but there's a part where they whistle, and then they kind of sing that melody. So what I do is during the whistled part, I play it up high on the neck, and then I bring it down low on the neck.
You do it with an octave fuzz.
No, I just play it.
I know, Jim, but I'm just saying, like, it would just be totally ridiculous to play with that.
Do you know the song?
I could guess.
What song do you think it is?
Is it Moves Like Jagger?
Yeah, it's Moves Like Jagger.
I got you.
It would be hilarious with an octave fuzz, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would, dude. That's why I'm like, that's what you should do.
I should try.
Every guitar player in the room would laugh their ass off.
I'm going to try that later tonight. I'm going to try that and see how it goes. And then I'll try it with the band and see how they like it. But yeah, so what I do is I challenge myself similarly. I say, okay, let me see if I can move this. I talked about in the group, how YYZ, there was 2 different tablature things, and Adam Perlmutter had it in one place and Andy Alidor had it another. And I was like, well, that's interesting. But Adam Perlmutter, if you would have played it his way, it would have been a lot harder.
Well,
so you know, riff that way.
And that's the funny thing is, like, you will run into tabs like that.
Right.
People will do things that's like, well, this is easier for me because I have this other technique under my belt that allows me to get it done. But you're like, why would anyone ever play it this way? The one that I'm thinking about is you shared the Message in a Bottle.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it was
some way easier ways to play that song, especially if you have a 7-string.
Yeah. If I had a 7-string, it would definitely be.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, I can play those 9s, right? Even though my fingers are short, I can play those 9s. And I can tell you right now, it is no picnic.
No. No. At that first night, I can get the rest of them, no problem. I can move right into them. but I got to come out of that slide and go back into that first ninth because the first time you get it, that's not bad. The second time I get it, holy crap!
I used to play an F9, right?
Yep.
At the first fret,
Mhm.
and then the second chord in the same song was an F9. So it would have been a C. It would have been a C with an F in the bass.
Yeah. It's just
C5 F in the bass.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute.
Oh, I did. About it. My wrist hurts.
No, it's a C sharp. C sharp. Because a C5 would be the normal F9.
Right.
So it was a C sharp with an F in the bass.
Jeez.
So this stretch is like 4 frets.
As it is,
because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, well, as it is, the stretch on the first chord in "Message in a Bottle" is a 4 fret stretch.
Yeah,
from fret 4 to fret 8.
Yeah, so imagine doing that, but shifting the lower power chord up a note.
Yeah, so it's a C sharp minor 9.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a chord.
And there's better ways to finger that than the way I was doing it. Well, let me tell you that.
I'm sure. So that's one of the things I had written down. So when it comes to that, I guess going right along with the next thing I had, which was underrated guitar players. And you don't hear Andy Summers. Everybody, when you mention Andy Summers, people go, "Oh yeah, Andy Summers. I love the Police. I love, especially the first 4 albums. They're great albums. I can remember, it was kind of college punk almost, with a pop sensibility. And I remember the first time trying to play "Every Breath You Take" on guitar.
That Synchronicity record is one of the best records of the 80s.
Ever. Yeah. Not Synchronicity.
Ever too. Yeah, for sure.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. The one with Murder by Numbers and stuff on it.
Yep.
And the production of that album is like out of this world.
Right.
But the funny thing is the guys were not even able to sit in the same room without fighting each other.
Oh, I know.
Sting and Andy Summers were getting into fist fights.
Yeah.
No, it was
Sting and Stu Copeland.
Yeah, it was Stuart Copeland, right?
Yeah.
Well, so here's why Andy Summers doesn't really get the credit he deserves, right? So Andy does the Police. It works out. He does I think he was in some bands before the Police too, but none of them were like super successful. So he was in Soft Machine for like a couple months, and then he was part of the Eric Burden Animals, and I think there's another band that he was in that it was like real brief, but none of them ever like worked out very well. And so 1977, of course, he joins the Police, and they do all these different records that are really well thought of. So I think they have it self-titled, and of course, Round the Blanc and Ghost of the Machine, and then later on they did Synchronicity, which like we were saying is one of the great Police albums. Post Police, like he didn't do much after the Police. He really didn't. After the Police, he did some
session stuff.
He did something with Robert Fripp.
Yep.
And then after that, like I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia just to see if there was anything I was wasn't thinking of. Not much. A couple of solo albums. Well, no. So he did the duets albums, which was "I Advanced" and "Bewitched" with Robert Fripp, and then he did a solo album called XYZ, which came out in '87.
Okay.
And then I guess another record called "Charming Snakes" in 1990. But really, from 1990 to 1999, he didn't do much of anything. He did a rock-oriented album called "Synesthesia" and "The Last Dance of Mr. X," and then he did a couple of jazz records because you could tell like he's heavily jazz influenced in his music. Like you ever really sat down and listened to like how he plays.
Oh yeah.
So Then there was this thing called Circa Zero after the Police reunion. So they reunited, did a tour in 2007. I saw that tour. I spent a lot of money to go, and I felt like I had to because I knew the Police weren't going to get back together. Like that's a band that they were going to fight, and that was going to be the end of it. So they raised a lot of money for this water charity, bringing water to the third world and irrigation systems, all that, and then that was it. So in 2013, he started a band called Circa Zero with some people I don't recognize, and which did really well in the Japanese charts, believe it or not. And then he had formed a Police cover band.
Yeah.
What?
Isn't that weird?
That's weird. So of the other members of the Police, right? So Sting obviously has had a very successful solo career, all kinds of stuff. Everything from, the Blue Turtle record all the way to, Desert Rose or whatever the name of that song is. And he's hit every genre of music in there, from classical to even he did a country song that actually charted in the country music charts. And so Sting, obviously he's been very successful. Sting was always the front man for that band. Like, it was no secret that he was going to go off and do his own thing that was going to be very successful. Over. Stuart Copeland went off and started scoring film. Yeah. And then, of course, he did a project with the guy from Primus and Trey Anastasio as well, which is actually really good.
Yeah.
Blue something or Oyster? No, it's Oysterhead. That's
Oyster.
Yep. And that's a pretty good. That was a pretty good thing, but like, Andy Summers just didn't do anything after the Police. Like, not really. Like, I already made enough money that I don't really care anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do, and not worry about being this juggernaut of making great popular music.
I remember seeing an article or an interview where he just said he was not interested in it anymore. I mean, it was just like...
That does not surprise me at all. It doesn't. I'm just looking at his career, right? Like, I don't know a lot about the guy other than I know that, like, he got his Telecaster while he was in college, and there was some stuff like that I've read here and there. But he just strikes me as a guy that just doesn't care about, like, making money. It's just not a thing for him, and he's got enough money because he was in the Police. Right. So he's going to do what he wants to do now.
Yeah, if you think about it.
Now, the crazy thing, though, is, Jim, so we are talking about Andy Summers, right? And talking about, like, how his career really didn't do a whole lot about after the Police, but every guitar player knows who he is. So maybe he's so influential because of his time in the Police that he didn't really have to do much else. And there's another thing I want to point out, too. We were talking a couple weeks ago about who killed the guitar solo. Yep. Andy Summers killed the guitar solo.
You really think so?
Yes. Because I remember when I first started getting into the Police, and I was late teens, right? And I was probably early teens. And I was listening to their records, listening for guitar solos. There's only a handful in the entire catalog. And in that time period, for the kind of music they were playing, for like 1977, there's only a handful of guitar solos. What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, that's not normal. And actually, most of the solos could be seen as just a melody part played on guitar. They're not really a solo per se. It's not like it's featuring guitar or something. It's just done that way because it was convenient. So I don't know. I think he's a fantastic guitar player. I think he's a role model for a lot of people because his contributions to the music were more as like a mature singer-songwriter kind of deal where he was like, okay, so we're doing these chords and I'm going to find a part that fits within that. And he's very much like, we always forget the dude's name. The guy that did Get Lucky.
Niles Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers, right. Nile Rodgers, he's very much a Nile Rodgers, right? The guy that kind of sits in the background, makes some really cool stuff that's going to stand the test of time, like Message in a Bottle and Walking on the Moon and all these different songs. And none of that stuff is really technically all that challenging, except for like when he's doing the 9-chord thing. And it has left a lasting impression without him having to do anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, the Police did 5 albums.
Yeah, if you think about it, there wasn't a whole lot. Synchronous or what is it? Not Trace Amigos. That was
No, that would have been those other 3 guys.
Zenyatta Manata or something.
They did 5 albums. They did. I'm looking up their things so we can be specific. Outlandos de Amor.
Yep.
Regata de Blanc, Zenyatta Mandata, Ghost in the Machine, and Synchronicity.
Oh wait, there was Synchronicity too.
No, this is all on the same record.
Oh, Synchronicity. Oh, that's right. The song was Synchronicity.
Yes, there was 2 versions of the same song, which were written. I don't. There's a reason why they called them Synchronicity, and it has to do with the Jungian concept of collective unconscious, and like how they both wrote a very similar song.
Yep.
And then so they decided they were going to use them both, and one would be Synchronicity 1 and 2. I don't remember. There's a story about it. But man, like that record. So we talk about that record. Synchronicity 1 and 2 are on that record. Walking in Your Footsteps, Message in a Bottle, Walking on the Moon. No, that's a set list. What am I looking at? No, I knew that wasn't on there. I'm trying to go back and like go through my head. I'm like, I know Synchronicity 1, 2, obviously, and then I know like King of Pain is on there. Wrapped Around Your Finger is on there. Yep. Every Breath You Take is on that record. Mm-hmm. Which, like, you want to talk about a song that is highly misunderstood.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's one. Wrapped Around Your Finger is definitely.
That's another one, too. King of Pain.
King of Pain.
That whole album is about torture and awful stuff that you do to other people. Murder by Numbers. I mean, that whole record is about like the dark side of humanity. But you wouldn't know that if somebody didn't tell you. If you didn't know the song titles, like it seems like everything's just hunky dory and everything's okay, except that we're killing people by slipping tablets of poison into their coffee.
Yeah.
So if you haven't checked that record out, if you're young like I am and you don't own it or something, go get it because it is really good. And the trend today is that like people are really into this like ambient stuff. They pioneered it. Them and Pink Floyd and like a couple of other bands were really responsible for like this big open space in music. And this record in particular, just the bass playing alone makes it worth it. And the production also makes it worth it. And there was a time period in my life where I sat down and I was sampling the drums from Stuart Copeland on that record because I was like, I want to use these. Like, I want to I was trying to get individual snare hits and stuff. Like, yeah, it didn't work out too well, but I tried.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, that's right. This record actually is one of the first records to use drum triggers to double the drums. They were using sampler and drum triggers to double the drum. That's why the drums sound so damn good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So.
Well, all I know is that when I heard Roxanne the first time, which was on the first album.
Yeah, that's on Outlandos de Amor.
Yep.
And don't stand so
close to me.
Yeah, that's the song I like. And you know what? That's directly indicative of where they were going with their career, was to like do these darker tunes that had pop sensibilities.
That had poppy, service. Oh, look at how high and light and fluffy this song is. And it's about get the away from me.
Yeah, it's about like killing people, or in his case, it's about a girl that's trying to sleep with her teacher. Like that's just messed up. Like when you think about that, that's just messed up. And they did a greatest hits record and they redid that song.
Oh, I know, and they did it in a really spooky way.
Yeah, I like the remake.
They kind of took it to a new place. Yeah, I actually like the remake just as much, if not more, than the original.
Right.
And of course, Can't Stand Losing You. I mean, it was just Be My Girl, Sally, instead of Mustang Sally.
And you know what? He's a guy that didn't have a complicated rig.
No.
He ran like a Phase 90, a Marshall, and a Telecaster.
It sounds like so much more shit going on there. But
later on he started using Roland JC-120s and stuff. But, I mean, honestly, there was not a lot going on there. Delay, like, and it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to use this specific delay. It was like, what do you got? I don't care.
It's just incredible. And he did all that stuff. Most of that stuff he did on telecast, just on his telecast.
Yeah. No, I think the Telecaster is used on probably 80 to 90% of the material. I know he used a Strat for synchronicity.
Yeah, and he had some company built a guitar for him later on.
That was the Strat I was talking about. The wasn't a Sir, but it was like
okay, so it was a Strat style.
Yeah. That's what I meant. He had Strats too, but that Telecaster was pretty much what he used in the studio. So
yeah, but it's just I enjoyed working his songs. It was so much to his style of playing, given the
he's a jazz player playing rock music, and like when you stop and you examine people like that, okay, so he's not the only guy to do that. There's a lot of
not just rock, it was punk.
Yeah, like it was like really aggressive punk.
Playing aggressive punk. I mean, when you listen to Can't Stand Losing, I mean, the riff and it's just a punk song.
And well, so you say that, but I actually see a lot of reggae.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Way
there was
more
no
reggae than punk, believe it or not. Way more reggae than punk.
Yep.
But the choruses and stuff were always more punk. But I think part of the reason was they got big in France. They're an English band that somehow made it in France.
Yeah.
Which is actually why their first two records are in French, like the title. And you can get French copies of the record where they're all singing in French.
Yep. I believe that.
Which is odd, to say the least. But it's odd to our Western ears because we weren't exposed to them when they were a French band.
No, no, I didn't hear about them until probably late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I mean, so they broke in 77. I think they were around. I think they were like gigging and started to get popular in like 75.
Yeah. But they didn't release an album
by 84, dude. Like they were only around like 6 years or 7 years.
6 years. 78 to 84. Time. Yeah.
Very short time. Yep. And I don't know. They are one of the great bands. Like I don't know of anyone that I would think contemporarily that has all the pieces of song making like they did.
I can't kind of blame Sting when it came to Copeland, because Copeland, he said he couldn't keep his timing.
Copeland's still an asshole. Yeah. Like they did that tour, and all Copeland could talk about was how much he hated getting on stage playing with him.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, dude, like this is nuts.
Yeah,
and then of course he came out and he just slayed that night. The problem is the music that they were playing, like it was so reggae oriented. The only reason that Copeland was their default drummer when they actually met him and like started playing with him was because he was the only one that could pull those rhythms off.
Right. That makes sense.
But Copeland was getting bored. Like that's what was going on, because he was a much better drummer than they gave him credit for, and all they wanted to do was the reggae stuff. So, or a lot of what he was ending up doing in that band. He would have made a suitable replacement for Neil Peart in Rush if that had happened. You know what I mean? Like he was in that. He was in that level. That was never going to happen, obviously. But I mean, I'm just saying, like that's where he was at. He's in that tier. Him and Phil Collins, which, by the way, if you ever want to see a discography that has like literally every artist from the 80s on it, that's Phil Collins on drums, not vocals, drums. And he was known for being like Neil Peart, but more musical, and that's the way that like a lot of people characterize him as like that with soul, and there are some records of him just going off. He did Brand X, I think, or is it Band X or Brand X? That stuff is just out of this world drum wise. And then of course you stop and you realize like a lot of that stuff was done with a single bass pedal. And you're like, how did this ever happen? I'm actually going to see a cover band tonight that does some of the Phil Collins Genesis stuff. And, well, they do. That's all they do. It's Genesis cover band and his era, like Peter Gabriel's era, but but also some of his stuff too. And then, like, of course, they were on drums. He was on drums while Peter Gabriel's a singer. And I go to watch the drums. Like, honestly, I'm like, holy mother of God. And they've had some guys historically that are super good doing that stuff because they do it. Like, in fact, I've seen one of the guys did it with single bass pedal all night long, and I'm going, how? Like, how does a modern player know how to do that? This is interesting. So we're talking about the Police Synchronicity Tour, right? Here are the opening acts. If you want to get an idea of how big the Police were and how respected they were, Joan Jett, Flock of Seagulls, Ministry, Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Talking Heads, James Brown,
wow,
REM, The Animals, Bryan Adams, like, yeah, that Berlin. I don't know. So that was for the Synchronicity Tour alone. Those were different opening acts that opened for them.
Easy.
Yeah. So the big one was the Ghost in the Machine tour, which that's another great record. And that is, I'm looking to see if they have opening acts listed for that. No, they don't. Dang it. So yeah, unsung guitar players. If you want to talk about unsung guitar players, I will nominate Mr. Summers. Yeah, Mr. Summers.
Mr. Summers
for that role.
If that is your real name.
I'm sure it is. Oh, here's a picture of him with his red Strat.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
they love.
Who would you nominate? Who's your unsung hero?
Unsung?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hard for me because there's so many people that I really enjoy hearing. You know, that didn't get. There's
some other ones I'd put up there too. People that people know about, but like don't really respect what they actually did.
Yep. But for me, Mick Jones from Foreigner is he's definitely an unsung guitar hero.
I put him more in the songwriting category myself, but yes, there is some killer stuff in that catalog.
Yep.
I've seen Foreigner, by the way. I'm a big Foreigner. Yeah. And not the franchises running around with the Foreigner name.
No. I've seen Foreigner thank goodness before.
I saw him after Lou Graham's brain cancer.
Yeah.
After he got better, and they did one tour, and it was like all the dudes that had played with him over the years. It was really good. It was a festival date.
Yeah, and I think Tommy Shaw is another one that sits in that category of guitar players that can really play, but he kind of got stuck in a, you know.
I don't have much to say about Tommy Shaw that would be nice.
Yeah. Well, he's got an ego.
He used it to usurp a band.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really bad, and that's why. Like maybe as a player and like talent, like he's great, but I think the guy's got a real mental problem.
Yeah, what he did to here's a guy, I'm cashing all the checks, but I hate what I'm doing, but I'm going to cash all the checks. Yeah.
Very much.
Kind of that way. Same with JY.
I'm trying to think. There's probably some other guys that like come to mind, but the dude in Cake, the current one, Dan McCurdy.
Yeah.
That guy is monstrous.
Yep.
Do you know what his rig is?
No.
It's like a Gibson 175 or something like that, like the big one. Country Gentleman or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Zan McCurdy?
Yeah, McCurdy, right.
I knew there was McCrae and McCurdy, and I was trying to...
He plays a big-ass hollow box, hollow jazz box Gibson through a rat. Yeah. And he doesn't even have the rat on.
A Proco rat.
into like a silver tone or something crazy like that. And if you heard the sounds on those records, oh my God, like you sit there and you go, that's coming out of that?
Yep.
And I mean, just a solid guitar player, comes up with really creative parts that sound great. Has a total mastery over the sounds of the 70s and 80s and 60s. Like that's all he does, and he's great at it.
That funky style. He's got a short skirt, long jacket.
Well, there was a guy before him. I want to see it was Dan Brown was the other guitar player. It might have been John Brown.
Never there.
The other guitar player that they had it first on the first.
Yeah,
record. And he's great too.
Was the one I know McCurdy was the one on long skirt, short jacket.
Yeah,
pretty sure he was on Never There.
Yes, he came in on the second album.
Yeah,
he's been with him for a really long time now at this point.
Yeah,
and I was looking to see if I could find. Here's an equipment outline, so I can figure out what guitar it was. It's a Chet Atkins Tennessean.
Yep, the single cut.
Yeah. Through a oh my gosh, get this. I thought he was using an old Tweed. It's a 1994 Fender Blues DeVille.
Yeah, I believe that.
He has a Proco Rat and a Source Audio Soundblocks multi-wave distortion.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't use hardly any at all. Like no wah, no volume pedal.
Nope.
Here's the crazy thing, right? So I didn't know this. The second album, which is Prolonging the Magic, I think. Well, that's actually their third album. So they did one album that was not widely released.
Yep.
And that's called Motorcade of Generosity, I believe is the name of the record. Or is it Comanche? It has the single Comanche on. I know that. Looking to see. I want to find all their albums. Okay, here we go. So the first record would have been Motorcade of Generosity, I guess. Yeah, so Comanche was on that record, and I didn't think a whole lot of that one. It was Comfort Eagle, and not Comfort Eagle. It was Prolonging the Magic was the one that I just lost it over. But before that, they did Fashion Nugget, and that's the one that everybody remembers.
I Will Survive, the cover that they did.
Yeah,
on that
The
one.
Distance is on there.
The Distance.
Daria. That was Greg Brown was the guitar player on that record.
Yep.
And one of those songs was actually written by Willie Nelson.
Really?
Yeah, Said Songs and Waltzes.
Oh, no kidding.
So then the next one I think was Prolonging the Magic. Satan Is My Motor.
Yeah.
Never There. Sheep Go to Heaven. But here's the crazy thing that I didn't know, and this is why I wanted to talk about this record specifically. Jim Campolongo played a lot of the guitar on that record. They hired him as a session player.
Yeah.
And he is a Telecaster monster.
Yep.
And you would never think he would be playing on a Cake record. But he basically says that's what pays my bills. I did that record. And he's like, that's been paying my bills for a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, think about how many.
He did an interview with Stu Gold recently. And if you haven't heard it, you should check it out. But he talks about doing this record. And I was like, I heard it and I went, what? I'm like, now it all makes sense because I love Jim Campolongo. I'm like, now I know why I like that record so much. It's because his guitar playing made the record. So, and he said he thinks he's on almost every track on that record. So
makes sense.
Just overdubs and little stuff here and there.
Yeah.
So,
it's like Tim Pierce. I didn't know he played on Bon Jovi's records.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of bands do that stuff where they hire somebody to come in and do overdubs.
Yeah.
Even today. So I wasn't shocked so much as I was surprised to see that Jim Campolongo did it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he was a name at that point in the session scene. So it's kind of surprising. He's not. So Jim, to give you an idea, when people say Telecaster Ninja, everybody picks the Helicasters or somebody like that. Right?
Yeah.
Jim Campolongo is a New York jazz guy that plays Telecaster. And
crazy, right?
Yeah, he's a whole other thing. That's why I think they wanted him because he could do some of the telly kind of madness, but he was more grounded in conventional New York style stuff. So I would, if you haven't listened to him, check him out for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway, we are approaching our 2-hour mark. I think it's time to end this. And
okay.
taunt our listeners with those wonderful pickups that I will have tacked onto the beginning of this episode, the rules for the giveaway. And hopefully we will be giving those away soon. Hopefully. You will have heard that in the beginning. If you did not, I would recommend that you go back and you listen to the intro song, followed by the bumper, which will have all the details. And so if you haven't, you can join the Facebook group. We always have that stuff in there somewhere. If you can't find it, just post. We'll give it to you. And then there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, Jim and I have been doing a lot of video content lately. If you haven't watched it, find us on YouTube, Practical Guitarist channel on YouTube. And we have dozens of videos in there at this point. And we will have dozens more going forward. So just wanted to remind people that we have that. And of course, we talked about the shirts last week. I'm gonna whore myself a little bit here on that. I made shirts. They're available. You can buy them. Find details in the Practical Guitarist Facebook group.
You can't see it, but I'm wearing one.
Yeah, Jim's wearing one right now. And it looks swell, Jim. It looks swell.
It does look swell. It does look swell. And it doesn't say Practical Guitarist on it, people.
Yeah, actually it does.
Somewhere. It does?
It says it on the guitar pick. It says it on the pedal. It says it on...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It actually says it on the headstock for the guitar. You just can't see it.
Yeah, because it's too...
It says Practical.
Yep. The Practical Guitarist pedal.
The amp is also Practical.
So yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's incognito. I don't think anybody will know that you're like promoting our show.
Right.
And
which means that you can...
And if you're so heartless that you don't want to promote our show...
You heartless people.
Sound off in the group. Tell us.
Right. Tell us, hey, I don't want to promote your freaking show. I just want to wear a t-shirt that looks cool. Well, you can do that too, because this t-shirt, I knew it was here and I forgot that it was on the pick.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I have been David.
I've been Jim.
And today we have been Practical Guitarists.
That's right.